join me in welcoming Kari Byron to South Dakota Mines.
Well, just while I organize my notes, would you guys like to see some explosions?
Yes.
I thought that would be your answer. Roll the reel. Was that gratuitous? Just in case some of you hadn't seen MythBusters, I thought I would give you a little idea of some of the things we did. We obviously spent some time exploding things. How many of you seen MythBusters before? Okay, good. I don't have to do too much explaining here, but there might be a couple of you out there. So I've been asked to come here and talk about my leadership journey. So first of all, I know a lot of you are graduating and are going out into the world. Raise your hand if you consider yourself a leader. Okay, if you didn't raise your hand, you're freaking wrong. I don't consider myself a leader either. So let's start here. So spoiler alert, you can go to the next slide. She's probably got a clicker there. My journey is not very linear, which I found a lot of the most important people I found in the STEM industry, the real leaders, theirs wasn't either. I'm here to tell you about my journey, everything that I learned about leadership while being locked in a glass coffin with 50 scorpions. Now I know this is not exactly how this business classes started. It's an odd journey, but the thing is, from my job experience, real leadership is not about having all the answers. It's what you do when you're scared to death. It's what you learn when you are diving with sharks at night in baited waters with only a flashlight, being attacked by a police dog while covered in wolf urine, crashing cars and semi-trucks, donating every single body fluid, including flatulence, jumping from a 100-story building, out of planes, wiring explosives at heights, being forced unconscious in a jet fighter, firing a Gatling gun in a secret location with an arms dealer, taunting a giant alligator with a Rajik in my hand, stopping a moving truck with a 50 caliber sniper on your first date back from maternity leave, stopping a moving truck, that was crazy. Okay, being blindfolded on a roller coaster, implanted with an RFID chip, and then pushed into an MRI to see if it would explode out of your arm. And after all of those explosions, I think that the most dangerous thing of all was walking a red carpet in 4-inch heels. That was hard. That was terrifying. That was the scariest of all. So what I mastered at MythBusters was that real leadership is what you learn when you're terrified. It's when you have no idea what you're doing and scorpions are literally crawling over your face. So before I get to the lessons learned, let me go back to the beginning. Let me give you my origin story. Someone who came from my hometown as well, Steve Jobs, said this, and I just thought it was so cool. You can't connect the dots by looking forward. You can only do it looking backwards. So you have to trust that all of those dots will connect in the future. So wherever you are right now, just trust that your leadership journey is just starting, and it's going to be fabulous. So, this is me on the JADO Rocket Car Day. This is early 2002. So for over a decade, I was a host on MythBusters. It was the flagship show on Discovery Channel. And it started in the super Wild West days of reality television. If the 10 of you who didn't see the show, if you're unfamiliar, it was a non-fiction TV show that tested the validity of urban legends and myths using science, engineering, crash testing, and a lot of explosives, as you saw from that earlier reel. Now, funny enough, when we started this show, we didn't set out to be the quintessential science show or the pop culture phenomenon that we ended up becoming. But because the scientific method is just the perfect narrative vehicle for busting myths, we stumbled into what is the science communication field. Like, it didn't exist yet. Now you can find it all over YouTube, but science communicator, this was new, except for Bill Nye and Mr. Wizard, who both big fans. In the early 2000s, television was really different. There was one big, there's a couple of core networks and then like some niche cable networks. Streaming didn't exist. There was no YouTube. I'm sure a lot of you college students can't even imagine. No YouTube, no Instagram, no TikTok. Influencers were not a thing. Believe it or not, there was mostly music on something called MTV, history on the History Channel, crazy. And then you could always discover some science or nature documentary on Discovery Channel. I mean, when I was a kid, it was just, I don't know, animals doing it, I swear. Every time you turn it on. Then there was a Hollywood behind-the-scenes event that happened. It was a threat of a writer's strike, and reality television was born. It started with Survivor and Big Brother, and then an experimental world of nonfiction on Discovery Channel. The networks needed to pivot, and MythBusters was given an opportunity and a chance. Soon we would become the trailblazers and leading science communicators. But I guess as he said, I became the longest running female host, and I didn't have anything to do with science, so this was crazy to me. I didn't start out this way. I had an entry-level job as a receptionist at an advertising company, and when I say entry-level, I wasn't even the first floor receptionist. I was the receptionist on the second floor if the first floor didn't answer the calls. I was trying to explore any career I could to figure out how I could get into a creative industry, because starving artist is, I really like food. So that wasn't going to be my future. I was bored at 9-to-5 jobs. I really wanted to do something creative, something inspiring that every single day I wanted to get up and go to, where the phones rang on the second floor. So I decided to make a very bold move. I heard about M5 Industries from a friend. Now, this shop, oh my God, it was amazing. They weren't looking for interns. It was pretty brazen for me to just walk in and ask for a job. But I have a moment when I walked into the shop and it felt right. It smelled like electronics burning and wood and toxic fumes and it felt like heaven to me. You could just see the creativity just from every single corner. I offered Jamie that I would work for free, the guy in the gray right there. Turns out he is what we call frugal, thrifty. And so he looked through my portfolio, and quite honestly, I don't think he was that impressed. But the word free got him, and he knew that I would clean the shop. So it was the beginning of my dream career as a sculptor at M5. This is the place that everybody in special effects or toy prototyping got their first job, because he didn't pay very well and he could charge a lot of money for their labor. Shh, don't tell him I said that. It seemed to be the perfect first step for me to satisfy my creative drive and to find a career as a sculptor. Now, just because there wasn't an opportunity, it didn't mean that I couldn't make one. It was terrifying to walk into that shop with my portfolio and just ask for a chance. And it just happened that on my very first day as an intern was also the first day that a little show called MythBusters was filming. Jamie and Adam were brainstorming and building the very first episode, and it wasn't something that I had expected or sought out, but it was something that I really wanted to stick around for because it was so interesting watching the process and seeing how they were going to put this together. I got to learn two industries at once. In one room, I was learning how to toy prototype. I don't know if any of you when your kids saw those leapfrog toys. Do you have there was a leapfrog library where I sculpted all the little frogs on it and the letters and the little books, and that I sculpted for free. I think they charged a lot of money for that. But back then we didn't even have 3D printers, so my exact sculpts, even with the little accidents in them, went to become the molds that they would send to China. So when I got to go into the store, I could see my sculptures in the shops. It was so exciting for me. Anyway, that wasn't my speech. I just digress. I got really excited there for a minute. So I could work on the toy designs and the props for commercials and also hang out and build experiments for the show. And of course, clean the shop, take out the trash, and believe it or not, sharpen the screws that have been used already. It's very frugal. Have you ever sharpened and reused a screw? Over here, engineer. Okay, got it. I didn't know I was going to end up on camera. Was I a leader back then? I did not think so. Like all of you who did not raise your hands, I did not see myself like that. Being brave enough to walk into that shop, that was my first lesson. Leaders don't start out knowing everything. They learn to have the courage to say yes, even before they know how. I turned a vulnerability into a superpower here. Every time I admitted I didn't know something and asked and learned it anyway, I was actually demonstrating one of the most powerful leadership traits right there. Okay, so lesson number 1 right here. Excuse me. Oh, there's a clicker. Why didn't anybody tell me this? I guess I was talking to everybody. Okay, I got this. I was up there looking at Crazy Horse. You guys been up there? Okay, now that's some leadership right there. Like having the passion and the drive to come up with something that big, that insane, that's going to be a legacy of beyond your own life. I was in tears looking at that thing. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So, leadership lesson number 1 for me is make yourself the Picasso in the attic. I used to really tell my origin story very different. Like right time, right place. You know, I walked into the shop and yay, TV's happening. You know, that like American dream, that stumbling into success. The Antiques Roadshow. Do you guys know what I'm talking about, Antiques Roadshow? Yeah, good, that's my audience. Antiques Roadshow moment where your grandma's attic, you find a painting and it turns out to be a Picasso. That's not the real story. The truth is, the harder I worked and the braver I was, the luckier I got. It wasn't just luck. It was a lot of hard work. I wasn't invited to host MythBusters. I wasn't discovered. I made myself the right person at the right time, in the right place, every single day. I made myself the Picasso in the attic. I worked long and hard hours. I mean, we were doing 13-hour days, 6 days a week to start. And I also, because I was working for free, had to have a second job at night so that I could pay my bills, pay my rent, and pay back student loans, which were huge. So I would drive through the desert all night after a waitress shift, just so I could be in the parking lot by dawn, sleeping in my car for like 15 minutes, waiting for the trucks to roll out, and just jump in front of them, be like, I'm here, just so I could hand Jamie and Adam a wrench at the JATO rocket car. I offered to scrape chicken guts off of the ceiling after we were shooting raw chickens into glass that exploded all over Jamie's shop, who's also very fastidious and wasn't going to stand for one little bit of chicken guts. Like, we were up late. I remember being on a forklift, or a boom lift with Tory. We're scraping these chicken guts off the ceiling. I looked at him like, you left a job at Lucasfilms for this? opportunity to try something new. So did I. I am not a natural choice to be on screen. I am generally a bit of an introvert. I'm going to tell you now a little secret. I hate public speaking. This is terrifying to me. Like, believe it or not, I'm doing this, but no, I was never in a school play. I was never an actress. I don't even do karaoke. But honestly, I just really wanted to be a background builder. But I kept growing, and I kept learning, and I ended up on camera. They quickly offered me a job that would change my life and make me a career. And, you know, I wasn't the only intern in the shop. There were other interns there. There were other people there working on toys. But I was the one making myself really useful and indispensable and chasing my curiosity. I found my grit, which is a combination of passion and perseverance. It's also, I'll add this, it's strategic bravery. You can't just work hard at anything. You have to work hard at putting yourself in positions where opportunity can find you. When parents ask me, like, what is the thing that my kid can do so that they can be successful? The first thing I always tell them is internships. That is the best way to go out there and figure out what you want to do. You might have an internship someplace you hate what you're doing. Luckily, you didn't end up in that career. It might be the place where you make the connections or meet the people that are going to take you to the next level or get you the next job. I think it's the best thing to do if you want to create your own opportunity. So the takeaway for you guys, since this is my leadership speech, stop waiting to be chosen. Stop waiting until you're ready. Leadership starts when you choose yourself. You do the work no one else wants to do. The unglamorous work, the learning work, the chicken guts on the ceiling kind of work, where you can show up before you're invited, where you can make yourself useful, and where you can be so valuable that when opportunity knocks, you're there and you're ready for it. I need an engineer. How did we Okay. I'm just going to point at you, and we're going to work together here. Leadership. All right. Okay. So leadership lesson number 2. So fear is data. It's not a stop sign. Let's talk about the scorpions, because did you guys see this episode? Okay, well this was horrifying. On MythBusters, we tested the smell of fear. So this is the goal was to see if fear produces a different chemical signature than your just regular sweat. So first things first, we had to take some cotton pads, put them under our arms, and then get on a treadmill. Never watch yourself run in slow-mo. It's not as pretty as you think it is. But okay, so we got our control sweat. Then came the fun part. We had to create actual fear, and we tried all kinds of things. We went into this place called the Winchester Mystery House, which is supposed to be super haunted, and we watched The Ring, the original Ring, in the dark at night with just the 3 of us and some night cameras. And I screamed a couple times, but we didn't get a good sample. So we had to go on to like, what can we level up here? So my co-hosts and I, Tory and Grant, we pulled papers from a fishbowl to see what creatures we were going to be trapped with inside of a glass coffin. And I got scorpions. Pro tip, if you're ever happen to be with TV producers, you do never tell them any of your fears. They are your friend, they're not listening to you, they're filing this away for later so that they can use this. Mind you, the other options, there were a lot of things in this bowl, but there was rats, there was snakes, there was spiders. Like I was almost lucky to get scorpions. I could have said no. I could have been like, no, dude, I'm not doing this. But I knew it would be a good story, and it would be an experience that would help me grow, and it would be something that I had to do for the team, because we all rely on each other. These stories we work on together, and we were part of a team. So I stepped into that clear box, which they told me it would scratch up, so I had to take off my shoes. That's not why. It's because they want to put scorpions on the feet. They poured like 40 or 50 of these dark red, black scorpions all over my body, and they didn't just dump it out, they did it really slowly, just to freak me out. And then the last one, they put a scorpion on my face. I was wearing safety goggles so that it wouldn't sting me in the eyes, but it was on my face. I was afraid to talk because the animal wrangler, the advice he gave me was, just don't move. If they don't feel that they're threatened, you're gonna be fine. Don't move. What he didn't tell me, little backstory here, is that he'd never done this before. He'd never seen anyone do this before. He also didn't realize that my orange little fancy nail polish was the same color as their food. Yeah, scorpion food is bright orange. Fun fact. So they were crawling around me, like all over the bottom of the box. You could hear this. The one on my face just kind of parked there because apparently it was really comfortable. But then they started biting my fingernails. I could feel them biting my fingernails. And I started getting an involuntary movement in my foot. It started low and it started more and more. Like I couldn't stop it. And the more I tried to stop it, the more it started shaking. And what felt like an hour, but was only, I think, like 7 minutes. I finally was released, and I had a very strong sample of fear for our experiment. There is a science where people actually just use their noses and can smell a chemical register, and there is a smell to fear. And it's not pooping your pants like everybody thinks. There's actually a hormone that happens when you are terrified, and the scientist we had on the show was able to pick it out, mine especially. So it was confirmed, there is a smell of fear. It was very stressful. So why am I telling you this story? What can you take away from this? Because bravery, it is not easy. Bravery is being scared to death, but doing it anyway. And now I know I can do anything, even brave, 40 scorpions. Fear is data. When I feel terrified about something like standing in front of a crowd, or starting a company, or asking for an internship, that fear is information. It's telling me what matters. It's telling me that I'm on the edge of growth. What it's not telling me is to stop. When I needed to write a book, I had a friend of mine who was trying to convince me, at least. I was having some beers with a guy who wrote Rocket Boys, and he's just like, your stories are crazy. You need to write a book. And I'm like, dude, I don't do that. You do that. I don't write books. That's scary. Like, that's a vulnerability that I know. I'm not putting myself out there. I'm not telling my personal stories. And then I was talking to my daughter. She was really little, and she was scared to do a presentation. I was like, Stella, bravery isn't Superman. It's being scared to death and doing it anyway. And I walked out of the room, and I'm like, damn. Now I'm gonna write a book. All right, so here's your takeaway. Next time you feel that gut punch of fear about a decision, I want you to ask yourself, am I afraid because it's actually dangerous or because it's important? Leaders don't eliminate fear. They develop a relationship with it. They learn to read it as a signal that they're about to level up. So every time I try something new that scared me, I made it through it, and I've got a little bit stronger. And being in a box with scorpions, that is not exactly a career skill, but what I learned from it, that I could feel the terror, I could move on anyways, and that goes on every resume in some way or another. And I'm going to pretend to click, and then you're just going to do it. Ready? Look at that! Okay. So my leadership lesson number 3, I promise I don't have like 10 of these. Number 3 is redefine your success and embrace the detour. So MythBusters, not my original destination, it was a detour. Best leaders stay committed to their values, not their plans. I never meant to be a TV star or a science communicator. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to make things. I wanted to foster foster my curiosity and create a life that just inspired me every day. And though I detoured from my plan in special effects and toy prototyping, and then that one period in college where I really thought I was going to move to Prague and carve marionettes, that was real. Instead, I found that being a presenter on MythBusters was everything that my brain really wanted to explore. I fell in love with science. I started to approach it the way I approach art, by getting my hands dirty. I had no idea how similar the process of making art was to building experiments. Both are answering questions and exploring curiosity, and MythBusters was that same destination, just a totally different path. That's when it all kind of made sense, and MythBusters made sense. And then everything that came after kind of made sense, going back, connecting those dots. And I spent a couple of years trying to recreate the magic of MythBusters. You heard him in the beginning when he was introducing me. Tory and I and Grant tried to do several shows. We tried to do the White Rabbit Project on Netflix, Thrill Factor, Punkin Chunkin, America Declassified, Head Rush, so many different weird Travel Channel, Discovery Channel shows. Nothing had that like stickiness of MythBusters. Like we never got more than, I think, like one season out of any of those shows. Over and over, what I was learning from this is that you can't fail if you're learning. But I was trying to succeed with somebody else's definition of success. Because everybody told me, it's like, oh, you did MythBusters, you got it made, that's your success. So I kept trying to do MythBusters over and over. I was forgetting to ask, what do I actually want? Why did I fall in love with this work in the very first place? That's when I found Crash Test World. This was a show that wasn't trying to be MythBusters. It was one where I was just following my heart. It was a travel show that instead of food, we found what bound us all together were innovators. So I was looking around for people who were solution seekers trying to make the world a better place. You know, I really saw that there was a magic there because the person who was producing this show, her name is Jenny Lucas, she had a learning platform called EXPLR, that's EXPLR. It's not on that slide. Oh, there it is, right there. And the two of us got together and we were talking about what's the real magic of digital learning. Because MythBusters for me was so exciting when I got to go into classrooms and I would see teachers using clips of it to teach physics, the scientific method, perseverance, all kinds of amazing things. They were using small bits of MythBusters to teach, and kids were paying attention, and kids were learning. Jenny had this platform that was also trying to make short format content before YouTube, mind you, that also had curriculum with it, so that teachers could use it in their classroom. They didn't have to go search YouTube, and they didn't have to have awkward ads that started before everything. So we decided that we were going to collaborate. We didn't have any funding, and I gotta say, if you want to really find some fear, go into the Silicon Valley and try to pitch your idea for a learning platform, and just see how far you get. We tried and tried, and it's really hard to get people to get behind education for some reason. I don't understand why, but we were not going to be deterred from this. We're like, you know what? We're going to do it anyway. We started a GoFundMe, and I got everybody I knew who had just even a little bit of fame to make some promises for me. I had lunches with donors. We raised just enough to launch it on our own and start introducing it into classrooms. So the takeaway from this is, your career path isn't going to be linear. You're going to pivot, you're going to detour, you're going to backtrack, you're going to leap sideways. It's not failure, it's navigation. The question isn't, am I going the right way? It's, am I moving towards what matters to me? So what mattered to me with MythBusters is that effect that it had, that ripple effect of being more important. And it wasn't just a TV show. It was something that was helping people learn, and it was changing lives. And it was really cool to see my physics teacher was actually using clips from my show in his physics class. So, acting. Maybe I should have been in the school play. So over and over, I was learning that you can't fail. but I was trying to succeed. So, oh, sorry, that didn't even change things. Sorry, I'm going to skip ahead. Leadership lesson number 4. I told you, I am terrible at this. I'm tired. We've been up a crazy horse all day. Use your platform to build something that's bigger than you. So 2014, I hosted the White House Science Fair with Bill Nye. Name drop that right there. Bill Nye. The President of the United States said my name on TV. We have a woman here who loves science and blows stuff up. Kari Byron, where are you? I was not expecting that. My mom was watching television, and I was in a press conference. I was like, hi. It was crazy. Anyway, I just imagine my parents were very proud. I'm sure they told everybody. I'm sure they DVR'd it. Anyway, pretty cool. So I felt like I was somewhere very, very special because this science fair had kids from all over the country, and they had shown up with their projects, whether it was a Girl Scout that made something out of Legos, or kids from Arizona that had brought their device that worked from solar power. But what was the real magic was like these kids were being seen for what they were excited about, and you could tell just that recognition of being seen was a catalyst moment for them. And I mean, some of these projects blew my mind, and I had so much fun just talking to them and then following them and seeing that they were ending up like leaders in their industry. Some of those kids walked away with patents. Like, it was just such a magical moment for me. And then the science fair went away. There was no National Science Fair anymore. And it broke my heart because it was a long time before it came back. I had seen this moment of profound hope for the future. Administrations just changed. It got lost in the shuffle. COVID, blah, blah, blah. It was over a decade. Then a few years ago, I was at South by Southwest. So this is a conference in Austin. There's one that's like for all the fancy movie people, and then there's one that's EDU, which is all the cool people, which is like the educators and like the policymakers. And I was hosting the live studio, which I got to interview all of these awesome people. I mean, they were like famous rappers and stuff too, but teachers. And I had to talk to the Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona. He was on my couch, and we talked about STEM. He went to a trade school. He was actually a mechanic, and we talked about how that is a STEM job that people don't traditionally look at, and how it's really underappreciated, how many STEM jobs are out there that you might not see when you close your eyes. So I said, dude, what happened to the science fair? Like, that was a pivotal moment for me. I love that. And he's just like, yeah. We'll look into it. And told me to talk to his assistant, who, they gave me cards with their phone numbers on it, and that was their first mistake. I wouldn't let it go. I'm a pit bull. I put myself out there, and for the entire year, I called and I emailed, and I became a little bit of a stalker. Persistence could be a superpower sometimes, because when I saw him again the next year, South by Southwest, and I interviewed him, he walked in the room and he's like, yeah, science fair, we'll talk. But now I know I got him cornered, and he's not going to answer the phone if I just take his phone number. So when the interview was over, I just had this moment of just ambition and audacity, and it felt like that fear moment of walking into Jamie's shop where like there's just something to it, where I leaned over to him and I said, you give me those keys, I'll build you this kingdom. Maybe it was because I said it all scary like that. But he said yes. And I looked over at my business partner in the corner, and my face just went, ah. She got a big smile. She's like, yes, we will. Okay, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I mean, between you and me, I really have. I had written a check. I wasn't sure I could cash it. That doesn't actually work. What is a scenario that works for you guys? Does anybody know what a check is? Never mind. leadership, sometimes you have to commit to something big before you have a plan. Sheryl Sandberg, I know she's a little problematic these days, but her book Lean In was really, really good. And she said that women especially tend to wait till they're 100% sure before raising their hands, whereas men will apply for jobs when they need like 60% qualifications. That kind of stuck with me. So though I was maybe like 20% when I made this offer, I decided I was going to build this kingdom anyways and figure it out along the way. We had something more important than a plan. I had a mission, I had a team, well I had that one woman that we would soon be a team, and I had a willingness to just figure this out. So with EXPLR, Jenny and I reimagined the entire science fair concept. So we created a nationwide challenge for grades 7 through 12th grade to innovate, invent, and present projects that would have a positive impact in the world, because that was my favorite part from Crash Test World. That was my favorite part from MythBusters. It's become the most geographically diverse competition in US history. We bring kids from every state, territory, the DoD schools, the Bureau of Indian Affairs schools. We bring kids here from everywhere, from rural to inner cities, to the outskirts, to the islands. Kids representing every corner of the country, representing that diverse voice that actually can solve problems. They're all flown into DC for the festival. And it just, I get a little emotional when I talk about the STEM Festival, because this isn't about me at all. This is about having kids being seen. This is that catalyst moment that I saw somebody else create that I was like, that right there. Brilliance doesn't know borders. Great idea in Minnesota can inspire a great idea in New York, or South Dakota, or California, or Alaska, or Hawaii, or Puerto Rico. We're scaling inspiration with technology, but mostly with community. We have this, the STEM Festival is expanding globally now. There's going to be one in the UK in Parliament, there's going to be one in Armenia come this summer, but it all started from this idea that kids need to be seen, but also we started out partnering with the Department of Education to get it off the ground so that we could have interaction with the government and kind of show kids what's possible. But because I didn't want this to go away again, I wanted this to have legacy, and so I needed to take the politics out of it. We separated it. So we have strategic partnerships with the government, and we've done this through 2 administrations, but they don't fund it. Just like Crazy Horse, you gotta go completely independent so nobody can tell you what you do. So we got the entire thing funded by STEM industry, by foundations, by people that believe in inspiring and fostering the next generation, the next workforce. So every single kid gets flown to DC on somebody else's dime, because we also didn't want finances to be something that stopped a kid. Because most science fairs, I had no idea about this. You gotta get yourself there. It can be really expensive. And if you're a kid in American Samoa, you're probably not coming here for the science fair. Also, a lot of science fairs own your IP if they're run by a company that's paying for it. So those kids aren't even keeping their ideas. I was like, no, I want to take away all of that. I want it to just be about the kids. I want them to be able to get there on their own, and I want this to be something really, really special. But mostly, I wanted these kids to find their community. I wanted them to find each other. I wanted them to find that, I saw a little girl from New York. She came up with an idea about gamifying picking up poop. Because in her neighborhood, it's a real problem that there's dog poop everywhere, and it makes her neighborhood gross. And she's like, that's a small problem, a small way in my community that I can make the world a better place. So she gamified like how many bags of poop you could get and put them into a little trash can. And then she met another little girl who was creating plastic bags that were completely compostable. The 2 of them got together to work on a project. I love so much that spark of community, because who knows if 2 of these kids are going to get together, that they met at the STEM Festival, they cure cancer, they fix the plastics problem. And that's what really, really matters. matter to me is building something bigger like that, celebrating the kids, building the digital platform that elevates them and teaches them all year long, building the STEM community with the industry leaders having a big stake in it. Because this is what leadership actually looks like. It's taking what you've learned, it's building something that outlasts you, it's creating opportunities, and it's paying that inspiration forward. You guys all have a platform, whether you know it or not. Maybe it's your team, maybe it's your classroom, maybe it's your social media. And what are you doing with it? Are you creating opportunities for yourself? Are you creating opportunities for other people? Are you lifting something up? I just want you to really think about what kind of power that each one of you has to become your own leader. Because real leaders ask, how can I be a catalyst? How can I be brave and help someone else find their bravery? So these, I just wanted to give a little shout out. These are the STEM champions from last year. We actually have a STEM champion in the audience from the year before. Stand up. There you are. It was a good experience, right? That is the South Dakota STEM champion 2024. These kids are amazing. And look at their projects. Transforming water quality, river sand filtration for a healthier environment. Ensuring safety with field-tested glove box. Advancing farming practices through aerial image-based soil moisture detection. Like, these are amazing. Like, these kids are just, they're going to change the world. It's just, it touches my heart. I hope you guys all follow us, nationalstemfestival.com. You can see this year's champions. You can follow us along on social media. We're going to do a live feed so all the kids can talk about all of their projects. Yay! All right, so let me bring it all together. I am super excited about the National STEM Festival because it is the biggest challenge I've given myself. I know this because I was so nervous when it started. That fear told me I was on the right track. It was like that M5 moment. It's another detour in the pursuit of making my life art, fostering curiosity, paying inspiration forward. If I can be a small catalyst for a kid to find their bravery, to become a solution seeker for tomorrow, everything was worth every moment. Who knows what that ripple effect you can actually have from this small platform? And let me tell you, at the end of every festival's closing party, I cry my eyes out because these kids start out as strangers, and at the end, they are hugging, they're dancing, they're singing Taylor Swift together. It doesn't, the grown-ups could go away. They are all friends, and a lot of them keep community. I still hear from them, they're like, I met my best friend there. And that's I feel like that is the STEM community that's going to bring this next generation together because we really are all more alike than different. And those diverse voices are what makes science so important. They are about solving problems. So these are my leadership lessons that I'm going to leave you with. Leadership isn't about being fearless. It's about being scared to death and showing up anyway. It isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking better questions and being willing to learn. It isn't about following a plan. It's about staying true to your values when that plan falls apart. It isn't about doing it alone. Find your people. Build something together. It isn't about arriving at a destination. It's about embracing all of your detours and making it the adventure. So whether it's starting a company in tech or mining or television, creating your own opportunities, being open to detours, learning from fear, learning from failure, collaborating with other people who share your mission, this will lead you down a road that's never boring, except if there's scorpions crawling on your face. It's a little too exciting. Anyway, this is what I like to call my crash test life, and thank you guys for listening. Thank you. Now that we're done with all of the blah, blah, blah learning, you can ask me any question about MythBusters, or leadership, or this is the part I like best. Like, this is the conversation I want to have. It's like, what do you guys want to talk about? So we've got a microphone over here. Raise your hand if you want to ask a question. I just want to say that that's something maybe you want maybe to add to that. My life's motto
choose to retire from MythBusters, or were you like all three like let go? Because I found you guys as the best part of the show, really.
Well, so Tory and I have a podcast called the Mythfits podcast, and we answer a lot of these questions because people are very interested. Honestly, we were on the air for like between 12 and 14 years. We did almost 400 episodes, and TV had changed. There was streaming now, so there was less money to go around because everything is kind of, you know, there was a million YouTube hosts at this point. They were doing it for a lot cheaper. So there was less for us to grow. And the only way to save money was to cut the show in half. So in order to get the show to get, and it apparently didn't work because in one season, turns out.
I was just wondering, was there any part throughout all of MythBusters, from like the biggest explosion to the tiniest making of something, did anything get you to go, well, I wasn't expecting that?
All the time. I'm not a scientist. I was a sculptor. So going into this, I was learning on the job, which is what I think made the show really interesting and made it very popular, is that none of us had a science background. Jamie has a degree in Russian. Adam is like self-taught. He's got a college degree. He doesn't even have a college degree. Grant was the only one who was like slightly, he had an engineering degree, so he was the only one among us that actually knew what they were doing. But we were scrappy, we were builders, and special effects actually creates people who can build things quickly and don't mind ruining them fast. So it worked great for what we were doing, but I was constantly shocked. We did a myth called Chinese invasion alarm. It's not one of our big explosion myths, so you might have missed it, and I don't know, you love that one? So the idea was that an army's coming at you, they're tunneling towards you. And so they buried drums in deep holes so that they could listen at the top of the holes and they could hear like a pickaxe tunneling towards the armies that were tunneling towards them. And I was like, this is like I think it was 400 BC was the myth. I'm like, this isn't going to be real. And then I was standing with Adam above the hole. He's deaf, he can't hear anything. He had his ears turned all the way up, still couldn't hear anything. But I could hear like a doom, doom, doom. And we had somebody over the radio who was making finger movements to the pickaxe where Jamie and Tory were in a mine across the way, hitting their pickaxes. And I was like, oh my God, this actually works. The science actually works. This is so cool. Like, I get so excited when I'm completely wrong. Yeah.
Do you still have the duct tape cannon that you guys made?
Oh. So when MythBusters was over, I got a phone call from, there was a traveling museum that took all of the props, and for about 10 years they did a traveling exhibit called the MythBusters Explosive Exhibition. And it was very interactive, and it was at all the big science museums, and it traveled right up into COVID, so it was in that display. But then, you know, when COVID hit, they couldn't, the museum had to stop, and they were like, Kari, what do we do with all this stuff? Do you want to come in and take what you want? Like, do you want to come get some of the old stuff, you know, just for memories? And I was like, you know what, this was shortly after Grant died. I was like, let's auction all this stuff off. Let's sell this stuff. Let's like sell this to the fans who actually really, like, we're not gonna throw anything away. Every single thing in there is valuable to somebody. So there's something called the Grant E. Mahara STEAM Foundation. It was his friends and his mom put it together, and they do STEM and STEAM education. They make videos and they do scholarships. So all the money from things like the duct tape cannon. The only cannon that is actually still around is the one where we shot the cannonball into the neighborhood by accident. That was in an evidence locker up until last year. So when it was finally released from the evidence locker, are you filming this, by the way? All right, this doesn't matter now. So when they released it from the evidence locker, our range master, J.D. Nelson, put it in his backyard, and we all just had a barbecue and took pictures around it. I guess after a while, it's not a crime scene anymore. That's a good question.
I could be remembering wrong, but you did the Chinese water torture episode, right?
That was the dumbest one.
Okay, was that like real? Was that, because I know, if I remember right, you were like, yeah, no, this works. Did it work?
It was so dumb. Like, the best possible result is torture. It was so dumb. Even when they came up with this idea, I'm like, I don't think this is good. And the experiment was so flawed. Like, the whole thing sucked. And so, the idea is that you drip water into your head, like, how you see it drip go into a rock over many years, it leaves a crater, so people used it for torture. Yes, it was awful, and we wanted to make it look cool, so we made this thing where it was a table where we chained ourselves to it with our arms over our head, and my arms started cramping, and I started crying and panicking, and we stopped, and then we brought in our expert to talk to us, and he walked in and he's like, "What are you guys doing? This is so dumb, so disrespectful," and we're just like, "Sorry." I wish that one never even aired. It was terrible. But we were still trying to figure ourselves out. We hadn't figured out stuff quite yet. We had a long list of myths and we were just ticking them off. So after that, we were a little more strategic with what is the best thing we can build that will, not torture us. These are good questions, you guys. Thank you. It's fun to go down memory lane too.
So actually, this one is definitely going to pivot from the other question.
Oh, I love a pivot.
Okay. So you mentioned that you were really interested in art, and that's what you went to school for. But then you got MythBusters, which was obviously a great opportunity. But were there ever points, in your timeline of life, where you're like, this isn't what I want, I'm kind of disappointed? And how did you kind of get back on track?
Yeah, that period, the period after MythBusters, when I was just doing TV shows, just well, this is what I do now. I was really it was scary, and it wasn't what I wanted to do, because I was doing a lot of shows just to do them, and some of them were really hard on my body and my life. I mean, we did an entire season of something called Thrill Factor, which was the science of thrill rides, and every 2 days, Tory and I would go to another theme park or another experience that was a thrill experience, and we would go on Falcon's Fury in Tampa 5 times in a row, which you go straight up 100 stories. It faces you at the ground, and then it goes straight towards the ground, and we do it 5 times in a row, and I just my head was screaming by the time we were done. I'm like, what am I doing? It was really hard. Do I still want to do TV? But the entire time I was doing this, I still did art in my spare time. I'm constantly doing sculptures. I learned that I love making black powder paintings. I kind of kept my creativity going while I searched for what I wanted to do. But I'm also a single mom. I've got a daughter, and so I still had to make money. So I still kept trying to do the thing that had been the most successful for me. It wasn't until, Crash Test World and realizing that this science festival was my biggest passion, that I really was okay, what is it about MythBusters that I really liked? And it really is that it's bigger than me. It's not, I really am the person that wants to be the background builder. So now I get to be the background builder, and I get to see other people shine, and it's just awesome. I can't tell you how many times I cry when I talk to these kids and see their projects, because you can just see them that kid right there, that kid's gonna rule the world. And there's so many of them. There's one back there.
How much trouble did you get in for Baghdad Battery with the trick on Adam?
Oh, so we did a myth. This is actually the question I like the least. We did a myth about that. It was the idea that the Ark of the Covenant had batteries, ancient batteries in them, and so that when you touched the top of this giant box, you would feel God. But it was really just a little electricity, it was a little shock, because you were conducting through yourself. And then the producer, not me, Tory, and Scott, thought it'd be really funny to do a little prank on Adam where we hooked up a electric fence to it, and he got shocked real good. Two things here. We did feel bad. We felt terrible. They made us do it. They edited it so we looked like dicks. We did not want to do it. But also, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Adam chased Jamie all day with that same electric fence, trying to shock him. So just saying, he got over it. He's over it. He's over it, as far as I know. Nah, I never did that one again. I've touched many an electric fence, though. I know what it feels like. I used to spend my summers on a farm with like all boys, and I'm from the suburbs. I didn't know what an electric fence felt like. They're like, hold on to it, touch it. This is how you get through. Go on. Not that bad.
I was wondering if you ever found any like useful information, like a solution to a problem by doing any of your experiments.
Actually, some of our experiments actually had research to them, like our underwater explosion that we did. There was a white paper written on it, and it was research for New Mexico Tech, where they had never done any of this research before. Every single one of those explosions you see, those were training exercises for the bomb range, so that we could do them. If you did this show in LA, you'd have to hire pyrotechnics and get a lot of permits, but Northern California, they had a lot of old army bases and that kind of things, and we learned quickly that if you get experts to help you in things like, if you want to shoot a gun, you call a cop. You want to do an explosion, you call it bomb range, and they could work it into their schedule as a learning program. So they had the most practical knowledge on every kind of explosive in every kind of situation because of MythBusters, but also shooting bullets into the air. We gathered data for that to see how dangerous that was. They actually used footage from MythBusters in Congress to lobby for air marshals being able to carry guns because the explosive decompression from a bullet wouldn't suck everybody out of the airplane. And most importantly, there was a woman whose life was saved because her car went off the road, and Adam and Jamie had tested that if your car goes underwater, what is the best thing you can do to escape? And she remembered that episode, and she got out, and she was saved. So, like, there was a lot of things that happened like that that just over the legacy of the long show just made us really proud.
Okay, we have 5 minutes.
Hi, what's your name?
Kennedy.
Hi. How old are you?
11.
That's like my favorite age.
Oh.
And you're a ginger.
Yay! Hey, you must be twins.
I wish. Your hair's gorgeous. Anyway, go on.
What kind of kids have you met that like kind of like changed your perspective and you still remember it to this day and you remember back and you like think of it as like it's like changed my life and stuff.
Kids that I've met?
Yeah.
You know, the very first STEM festival, I always think of this one kid because, he was younger than a lot of the other kids that were there, and he took a small problem that affected his family. Actually, I could list about 100 kids right now, but he was the first, where flooding would happen in Florida, and it was really difficult to move these soggy sandbags around because they get so heavy, and to save your house, you have to pull up all these heavy sandbags, and he and his mom were doing this, and he invented a sandbag that the inside of it was old diaper material, that could like absorb a lot of water quickly, and then when they dried, they would be completely flat and lightweight, and you could just put them away. So it was a simple problem that he just worked through and figured out a solution based on the things that he found in his house, and then 3M bought the patent. So like this kid was 12 at the time, but a lot of the kids at the science festival that I've met, they're just looking for a small problem. Like, what is it in your community that you see that you want to fix, and then work backwards from there. It's not like you have to start out like, I've got this really complicated robot. It's like, what's something that's really affecting you? Is it water in your community? Is it, you know, is it sandbags? A lot of those inventions were, there's one kid I met. He had met another 12-year-old who didn't have an arm. And he asked him about, like, why don't you have a prosthetic? And first of all, it turns out, you know, his dad told him, like, it's really, really expensive. Also, as a kid, you're growing. So the arm doesn't grow with you. You have to keep buying a new prosthetic. So he went and learned how to 3D print and came up with an open source pattern to 3D print an arm, so as the kid got bigger, he could print a new arm. And he didn't know how to 3D print when he started. He just went and asked questions, and he figured out how to solve a problem starting with just that empathy.
Do you hope that one day you, Adam, Jamie, and Tori can get together again and do more myth busting?
It will never happen. I will tell you what, Jamie's done with TV. I have coffee with him. I can't even get him on my podcast. Yeah, I had coffee with him the other day, and he showed me all sorts of crazy stuff he's for the DoD. I don't even know. That man's like a think tank, and everything that he's working on is a crazy cool invention that might be used in space someday. No, he's like done with TV. He hated the celebrity of it. He just liked that he got to do cool stuff. So, and without Grant, I mean, we'll do a lot of things in our lives. It's never going to be the same. But I'll talk about it a bunch on Mythfits. If you ever listen to the Mythfits podcast, every now and then we'll tell a story we're not supposed to tell. Or get a guest on that tells a story we're afraid to tell. You guys, if there's questions you want to ask, you can also, like, on the podcast or Instagram or whatever, just like, I'll try to answer them if we don't answer them here.
Do you use any of the vodka stuff that you guys did on the show?
The vodka? Do we use any of the vodka stuff? You mean like when we tried to like? Oh, okay. Okay, we did a lot of vodka myths, and one that I actually will use is that Russian ballerinas apparently do this. It gets body odor, tough body odor out of their costumes, so that you don't have to wash them. So that's a really good one when you have a teenager. So anyway, yeah, vodka to get out that. But a lot of those were silly. If I get stung by a jellyfish, I am not pouring vodka on it. That was silly. You can't get cigarette smoke out. You can't put it in a Brita and make nicer vodka. Yeah, a lot of those were busted and they were just silly. But oh, and it definitely doesn't cure poison oak. Definitely. I hated testing those myths. Okay, last question.
Are there any fears or phobia that you didn't know you had until you did an experiment on the show?
I mean, the scorpions I didn't know I was scared of. Rats, man, I realized how scared of rats I actually am. And I used to not be afraid of big snakes, only little snakes. Turns out the big snakes bite. One of them bit our animal trainer, and I was like, oh crap! That used to be on my neck 10 minutes ago. I found out Tory is terrified of heights, which he always seemed a little bit of a Superman, willing to do any silly thing. And when I found out he was terrified of heights, I was like, yes, there's like one thing I can do that he can't do. I don't know. I feel like my fears tend to get better after we did stuff on MythBusters. Like, I'm here talking to you guys, and it's a big old audience. Like, I wouldn't have done this if it hadn't been for the show. Any last ones? Come on, like one more. Let him do one more. This is a good, give me a good one. Give me a good one.
So I'm finishing up my degree in the summer, and then I'm going to go into science education.
Yay!
And I'm also a mom. So what are some questions, or like, what are some things from me that I can do as a mom, being a STEM teacher, that you have experienced, and how
Oh, you want to inspire the kids
Yeah,
as a STEM communicator? Well, luckily for you now, there is a million really great resources out on YouTube. So, like, I find that one thing that's been really interesting and really important is representation really matters. So, I think being able to find somebody who kind of looks like you is really cool. And there's so many science communicators out there. Hip Hop Science Show, Emily the Space Gal, Physics Girl. Like, there's so many different people with great videos. I would utilize as much of that as you can to inspire the kids, and you know, keep doing those tabletop experiments when they're little. That would really sparks them. One more? What? Just yell it out to me. I am familiar with First Robotics. Grant was a mentor. Yeah. Oh my God, robotics is like the best entry into science. It gets kids so excited. Robotics is great. Actually, Grant E. Mahara STEAM Foundation, I will plug one more time. They do a lot of robotic stuff, and they start with Legos with little kids. So absolutely, that is a great entry.
All right. Sadly, all good things have to come to an end. Let's thank our speaker.
Thanks,